Hello. Hi.
You
Hello.
should give me a Vidphone t-shirt.
For sure. Next time.
Yeah.
What's your size? You keep changing.
I don't want to say it here.
We give you an elastic one, Vipul.
Yeah. As long as it's elastic.
Super. So yeah, wonderful. Thanks, Vipul, for taking out. I know it's
Yes.
you're having a very hectic time, but really appreciate you joining us and sharing your thoughts. Aishri, over to you.
Yes. Yes. No, thanks a lot, Vipul. And, this is the beginning, the first day of our Eureka series where we are restarting this and where we are going to talk really about, all the innovations in the ecosystem right now. And we are very thankful, like Jagat said, for that, so that you could join us today. So thanks for that. Thanks to all our viewers and a very good evening to everyone who has joined us today. So as you all know, this series is about, we are calling it Eureka, where ideas meet action. So we're going to talk about a lot of innovations, new ideas, trends, etc., that are currently going on in the ecosystem. And we have Vipul Saini with us today, who leads the startup and the fintech collaboration innovation lab under the innovation lab in Kotak Mahindra Bank, and will also be joined by Vijetha Shastry, who's the executive director of Dexter Capital, and really looking forward to this conversation, Vipul, and there's Jagat, the founder of Vidphone, and this is Ayushri here. I lead the business side of things at Vidphone as associate VP. So very happy to have you all here and looking forward to an amazing conversation. So we'll just wait for Jagat, for Vijeta to join us in a minute, and I think we can start then.
I'm here.
Great.
Just give me 1 second. I'm
Yes,
trying to
yes,
just
no
get
problem.
our other panelist, good friend Vijeta, on.
Yes.
No, what I like about this is you've got us in a candid moment, right? So that's what I love about it. And he's networking at an event and you catch him right there,
Yes,
right?
yes,
So
yes,
yeah, I think this is great. We don't get to see a lot of this happening in the
yes,
ecosystem. So yeah.
yes.
Let me
So
just
I
tell
think,
my CTO. Just 1 second. We want to get Mr. Vijeta as well.
yes.
Go ahead, Aishri.
No,
I'm
I think
listening.
that was the entire idea I was saying, to just be able to open up this platform and not keep it very formal also, where we can, take out time from all of your busy schedules and, you all being able to give us this time to share your thoughts is what so we just, thought we'll start it off and,
Sure. We can
get
go
into
ahead. We can go ahead. Maybe Vipul's
Yes,
views, or and then Vijeta will join us.
yes, yes. So Jagat, over to you, until Vijeta joins in and yeah.
Sure. No, thanks, Aishri. I think past few weeks, everyone would be seeing Aishri's work lot around, the women entrepreneurship. That's where she
Yes.
comes from. So,
Yeah.
it's been wonderful to see all the activity. This, of course, I would not start an ideas kind of, webinar without anybody else. To be honest with you,
Yes.
Vipul and Vijeta are like mentors to me. And,
Yeah.
I've had such a wonderful relationship with both of them. And I think it's, perfect that, both of you are, able to kick off this whole series. So
Yes.
yes, with phone, we love innovation. That's what we're about, I would say. I think there's the rock star
Yes.
himself, Mr. Vijeta,
Hello,
finally made his
Vijeta.
way into our
Yeah.
session.
Ladies
Hi,
and
Vipul.
gentlemen, yes, this is my fault. Huh? This the platform is amazing. Just for those who are going to watch this, I'm
Thank
sitting in some other place. That's why.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Vipul. Thank you, Jagat. Thank you so much, Ayushri, for setting this up.
No, thanks
And
a lot, Vijeta,
just
for joining us. Being so busy at the moment, but thanks a lot for doing this for us today.
no problem, no problem. I
No,
wouldn't miss this.
Vijay, sir, I was just mentioning that right when the call started. I said I love the fact that this is such a candid approach and such a
Yeah,
testament to the engineering that you're at an event. I'm running around between offices,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Jagat is luckily at home, right? Ayushi is
just
probably in the
reached.
office, right? And we're
yeah,
just like connecting and it's like there, So
yeah.
I miss that on the
Right.
other platforms because half the time it's like there's that joke that goes around. So getting on a call these days, video calls is like doing that. What's that the sort of game that I think it's called Luigi board, right? So you're
Uh-huh.
like reaching out to the ghost, like, "Hello, can you hear me? Is there anybody there?"
Hmm.
So that sort of thing. So here we're
A
here.
Pink
So
Floyd song. Hello, is there anybody in there?
yeah, anybody there? Exactly. So yeah.
Super. Now, I was just saying, Vijeta,
Ah,
uh, We have done, so many wonderful virtual events together, and I'm really, thankful to you for all your, inputs and support.
Always welcome. I have enjoyed it. I have learned a lot, and I must appreciate what you folks are doing at Vidphone, and of course to the backstage man Akhil as well.
Of course.
So thank you for that. And just to set today's context also, Ayushri and Jagat, I love that Eureka. That's a nice one. Okay, of course we are not in a bathtub, but
But we don't
and
recommend running into the road naked.
yes. But having Vipul here and understanding the really the nitty gritties of what's happening in the fintech ecosystem. By the way, fintech founders and investors, Jagat, you also, we are doing a quick shout out for this. On 14th, thanks to Vipul and Kotak Bank, we're doing a small get together for just about 25-30 exclusively invited folks from the world of startups or working with banks or working in enterprises. Kotak is, of course, being our host, thanks to Vipul. And we'll be having some investors there. We'll be having some law firms, chartered accountant firms who understand the fintech world, and we want to get their views and try to understand what else is going on out there. Okay. But of course, today we are at a Eureka session once again. And Vipul, what we would want to get from you, and of course, Jagat Ayushri will continue that conversation. There is a lot of opportunity, there are a lot of challenges. Okay. I do know, Vipul, that you're working very closely with the RBI hub as well. And you are also trying to see how best, because you come from that ecosystem, you've been an entrepreneur yourself, you're trying to help a lot of startups to work with the Kotak Bank. And also, because if they work with Kotak Bank, they can also work with a lot more other enterprises and other banks as well. Okay. And the second thing is, of course, we both have been talking a lot about how can we help these founders to get investors, how do we help them to raise capital, and and get the best of services available from a bank or from the world out there of enterprises, right? So just recall what Jagat, of course, being a founder, would also like to understand from you multiple things, but let's keeping the context. Number one, and because I may have to step out, but number one is, where can banks support the future leaders who are going to be from the startup world? What are the current paid POCs or use cases, whatever that is available? And number three is, considering the various policies that keep happening, what can be done from the enterprise point of view, SME point of view, etc. And even for us as investors, we want to invest in the startups that you guys are working with, right? So keeping these in context, would love to hear from you, Vipul, please.
Absolutely. So like I promised, I'm going to be absolutely as candid as I can be, under the guidance of the compliance that we have to follow, as a bank. And but with that being said, I think this is a really exciting time in the whole fintech space. The startup ecosystem has gone through its ups and downs, and rather significant ups and downs in the recent times. But one of the good things about the whole fintech space right now is that we have a very robust body, and I got to thank RBI for that, in terms of being able to, having the foresight, to create compliances, not only to create a level playing field, but also, doing their bit to provide information to startups, to fintechs, to NBFCs, to banks, everybody in the ecosystem, in terms of, what can we build on, how can we build on it, and how can we all collaborate together, right? And that really is something that has grown in the last couple of years in the banking space, right? So if you look at the discussion that started off in about 2014 and 15, there was an argument that says, are NBFCs and are fintechs going to displace the banks, or are the banks going to fight back, right? Who's going to win the race? Is it a competition between the two? Today, the way we stand, it's actually, that whole argument is null and void, because we're all working together. So it's become an ecosystem of collaboration, and a very fantastic way of collaborating. And I would say, I take pride in terms of saying that, the level of collaboration that we have in the fintech space is far more mature and advanced than the other segments. Again, thanks to bodies like RBI, the banks coming together, the fintechs coming together, all of them working together, and building that solution, across the segments. Now, when we touch upon the customer base, right? So we all have a similar customer base that we're targeting, whether it be individual customers or other small organizations, or SMEs, or the larger organizations that we're building for. Today, what we've realized is that the customers are very specific about their requirements. They're very clear about what do they want, what their needs are, right? And we also have a lot of clarity in terms of how to provide those services to them, right? And that creates an opportunity for people to only compete on providing the best product. We're not competing in terms of the outreach. We're not competing in terms of providing information, spending money. Like the sort of rat race we had in the B2C segment. Earlier on in 2013 and 14, where people are running campaigns online. So today's that's not the problem. The problem is that how do you reach the customer with the product that you have. Now, either you build that in house and you work on it and you create and you showcase it to the market and let the buyers pick the best bet that's created for them, or you collaborate, expand your product portfolio, and then connect. Right. And with that being said, I think what has also started happening is that there's a lot of digital awareness that has come into the market. Our customers are very aware of the technology that they want. To actually give you an example, I think it's best illustrated with an example. Even when you go to the farming community, right? At that point of time, we are not talking to the agri people in the agro space in terms of there's XYZ product or there's a whole bandwidth of things that we can do. When we reach out to the agro community, they are very specific in their requirement. They know our product offering. They know the competitor's product offering. They know the names, right? They specifically ask saying that, hey, can we have XYZ? Let's only talk about XYZ. We don't want to listen to the gambit of solutions that you have and all that other stuff. We want to very specifically talk about the solution that they're looking for. So the sort of discussions have become much more better, more targeted, and more focused in terms of approaching that particular problem. And I think one of the best indicators of being able to connect with the customers is the reliance on video, right? And that's why being on Vidphone right now makes so much of sense because it's that much more convenient to be able to talk to your customers, and that's very important because the difference is that I'm not going there with a chart paper saying, hey, we have 10 things, let's talk about these 10 things and let's figure that out. We're talking about one very specific product, and when you're doing that, you need to have a face-to-face conversation where the Q&As are resolved. When the customers come and they ask you specific problems, you're able to solve them, resolve them, and give them that insight into your product. Not sell the product, but give them that insight, right? And that happens best on this medium. So that's what I would say. The way fintech has evolved, the way RBI is supporting us, with multiple initiatives with which you're doing it. We're talking about inclusion here as well. To the larger segment. So multiple ways in terms of collaboration, huge opportunities, and we also have a lot of collaborations being built with the international folks from different countries. I'll probably dive into that later on in the call, but amazing opportunities in terms of being able to collaborate.
So Vipul, we talked about the opportunity, but what about the challenges? I mean, due diligence is important, and when there's a mutual trust between, say, the SME or the startup and the large bank or enterprise, just if you can capture just about 4 or 5 pointers that are very critical for an entrepreneur to keep in mind or a CTO to keep in mind when they're dealing with a large enterprise, or in your case with Kotak Bank, also you can give some example as crisp as possible, please.
Oh, I mean,
Just sorry, Vipul, your video is off.
oh, okay.
If you could just probably enable that, or if you could just refresh it. I think it was all right so far. Suddenly, I think it's just gone off.
One second.
In case it's not switching, just refresh the page. You should just come back on stage. No problem. We'll wait for you.
So we got to see the dark side of.
No, but the good-looking people are there. It goes on.
So, anyways, just to say hi
Yeah.
to Akhil,
Yeah.
Chandni, Kanchane.
No, so a word of caution here. So I am logging in, to this call using my laptop, the office laptop. And one of the things I like to talk about the office laptop is being a bank employee, right? There are a lot of gateways, there are a lot of security features that are
Yes.
enabled on the laptop,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So it does happen. But, with that being said, I am actually very pleasantly surprised as to how convenient this is, right? Like I told you, I play a lot of Ouija board with a lot of my, collaborators. Like half the day, I'm just asking, hey, anybody there? Hello, can you hear me? So thank you. I think this is wonderful. So, like I was saying that yes, I mean that's a very interesting question in terms of how the whole discussion takes into the picture with today's the checks and balances and what entrepreneurs need to be careful of. See, when you're operating or when you're trying to work with organizations like the banks. And again, I would like to keep this example very specific to the banks, because I'm not really aware of what are the newer advancements that are happening in the other industry. But from a bank's perspective, it's become very easy to do background verifications and checks and get access to information and data about the organization, about the product, about the teams, about the people who are involved, and the founders, etc. So it's become really easy for us to be able to validate and authenticate a lot of data points, and thereby it has become even more important for organizations that are looking for collaboration with institutions, to be able to make sure that the books are clean, their product offerings are absolutely clear, the offerings that they're talking about should be clear, they should not have been involved, or should not be stuck in any legalities. I would say go resolve that first and then come back. It's a business environment, so we all understand there are discrepancies here and there. As long as they're resolved, it's good enough. But those sort of information or access to the information has become really fast and really reliable, to the tune of all the organizations that we collaborate with. We actually have an in-house tool where we track their day-to-day news on the companies, on the founders, or the owners, or the board of directors, and all of that information comes to us almost on a minute-to-minute basis. And again, it becomes important to be able to do this because RBI and the other organizations have given banks a mandate to do that, because we have our audited processes as well, so we don't want to be caught in a position where we would be compromised. So with that being said, it becomes very important for us to safeguard some of these things. Now when you're looking at collaboration with the bank, right, let's take the example of for example, the agri community. Now, I don't know if I'm allowed to say the name of this particular startup, because they're from Texas, but in the agri
Sure.
community, when we are partnering with so it's basically the heart, right? So when we're
Yeah.
talking about the agri community, and when we're talking about selling products, right, we're partnering with organizations like the heart. Now when we're doing that, when we're taking the product offering to the customers are aware. And when I'm talking about awareness, again, I'm talking about people who are from the farming community. They're not first generation digital users, right? They understand what product do they want at the get go. We don't have to introduce them to the product. We just have to resolve their queries about the product, which has been a very interesting development in the system, right? So as an entrepreneur, as a founder, please make sure that your communications are consistent, your product offerings are consistent, your price points are consistent, your collaborative efforts are consistent. Because if you miss out on any of these points today, you will be caught in the market, right? And nobody wants to be caught in the market, because we are also trying to build that whole level of transparency with our customers, right? And that is what is important in today's day and age. And as this transparency is becoming more and more common and being demanded by the final customers in the market, right? It becomes a prerogative of both the parties that are collaborating to trust each other by making sure that there's nothing hidden them. There's that transparency that's maintained. So that's where I would say, sir, that aspect has come in a very big way in this particular sector.
That's perfect, Vipul. Thank you so much. So now, just to give a context, I might have to drop out. But Vipul, you have been also talking to a lot of founders. My colleague Deepak, we have been catching up also. I think what 10 times we have caught up in the last 2 3 weeks, and we have been discussing with different people, but specifically around the investing and due diligence and other things, right? So when you look at startup founders, is it important for you that they have come through an accelerator or some something like that? And is it important for you that they're funded? Like what are the kind of aspects that you look for? So I just want to leave that as a context. And Jagat, you should also jump in along with Ayushri. And if we take any questions, because I need to step out, okay? So I apologize for this, but thanks. Vipul, over to you, boss.
Thanks,
No,
Vijay.
absolutely, absolutely. So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, so before
like
we
I was
also
mentioning a little
just
while before.
adding in here that we also have a question here, which resonates with the question Vijeta just put. That Kanchan has asked us, how do you think startups can collaborate better with banks? So I think, in a way, this can also be answered to this. So just putting it out here.
Well, that's a very good question. So I would say that the best way to understand or identify opportunities for you guys to collaborate with the bank is to, one, have the opportunities to network with people from the bank. Today, almost all banks in India have an innovation lab. They have a startup team. They have dedicated folks who are out there reaching out to the community and talking to them. Right? You can interact with them via forums like these. Right? So I would say please do go out and network and use this as a platform to be able to engage with people. Second is attending specific events. I'm not saying attend all the fintech events. There are certain good events, that you should attend. Jagat, I can probably share a few links. We can add those links in,
Sure.
once we, post this video live. So I think that should be helpful. Other than
Sure.
that, I would say also, try to have discussions with people who are from the banking community, right? Or who are from the RBI, lab, the RBI Innovation Lab, right? And hub. So you can talk to them and, figure out what are the opportunities. Today, there is no dearth of communication that is happening from a banking perspective to reach out for collaboration to tell people what we're working on. The good factor is that what I understand from one bank, there's 90% chances that that requirement will be there for the other bank as well. So if you're building a product by understanding a demand from one market or one particular bank, you can be rest assured that the other banks would also at least give you a hearsay and talk to you about what your solution is. At least give you knowledge. That is guaranteed minimum. The other very important thing that I would like to iterate here is that India has made a lot of progress in this particular space, right? So we're leading thought leadership product-wise globally in the fintech space. So if you're building for and if you're solving for problems for the Indian banks, be rest assured that you would have good market to tap into in Southeast Asia, in Africa, in South America, even in Europe, depending on what your products and offerings are. And I would say about 30% chances in the US as well. So by creating and solving problems for banks in India, you're actually creating a global brand, which is what we're all looking for from an investment point of view, from a traction point of view. Now, with respect to what Vijetha sir asked a little while earlier, do we prefer working, or talking to startups for an investment collaboration point of view if they actually, come to us from, our partners, like for instance, Capital and other, the partners from the ecosystem? Yes, I mean obviously because it comes with a lot of weightage. Because if somebody like the Dexters have invested in them, we know that they've done their due diligence, right? So that also helps us get that level of comfort that one level of due diligence is enough. And we follow our due diligence as well. It's a mandatory clause. We do it for everyone. But there's obviously that sense of comfort that this will happen. Additionally, what also happens is that because we're having conversation with a center person who's a SPOC, we're sharing a lot more information with them. So if you're not able to give one-on-one information at times to a very specific startup, you still have a person who can keep you updated on what are the banks talking about, what are we looking for, what are we talking about. So you have a direct connect in terms of understanding that requirement and that specific need. So that again is happening.
Just turning it around, maybe Ayushri, just want to know from you as well. Being from the coming from the women ecosystem, part, something. There was this joke around the economy as well, right? When the whole demo happened, is that India is a three-tier economy, right? One where, of course, the money is in the banks. The second, which is the so-called black money, and the third, which the wives have, that the husband also doesn't know.
Yeah.
So this, common joke. So just want to know from you, from your own perspective, what are some
Yeah.
challenges you feel that women may have and in the banking? Because what I see in banking is it's one of the most diverse and inclusive kind of workspaces compared to a
Yeah.
lot of other sectors, right?
Yeah.
Most of the leaders in banking are ladies, and just want to know from you, what are your 2 cents on that?
Yes. No, thanks, Jagat, and thanks, Vipul, for sharing that with us. And I'm sure Kanchan's question has also been answered with all the key points you have shared. Jagat, coming to women and being, I think the last few years where I have worked with a lot of women entrepreneurs and startups. Obviously, we see a lot of inclusion and diversity here. But I have heard one thing a lot from a lot of women is that, and these are women who are actually I won't say majority, but not all, but majority I have heard this. And these are women having proper startups, okay, but still they would get when they go to get a grant or a loan, they would get this question, who is the husband or the father, like there's I mean a lot of banks still need so I think this is a challenge a lot of women still face. They want someone else to back them, basically, even if their name is on the founder, they are the founder, and they might have a co-founder or not, and they are holding majority stake in the company. So we have had a lot of discussions around this also, while speaking. Obviously there have been a few who has not faced this, and For them it might have been a longer journey, but which might be for all entrepreneurs. But this is one thing I would like to point across, which I have heard from a lot of women entrepreneurs, the challenge, a key challenge where they hear this from the bank. But otherwise I think nowadays it's much more open, and it's all inclusive. So it's really about getting. So for us, a lot of women used to come to us, and at that point while I was with CW, they used to come to us, and they said their main challenge was that they cannot secure funding or finance. But then we also used to feel that their business plans were also not in place. To get to that level, there's a certain kind of work that you have to do. So that is a kind of thing that I think coaches, mentors, help you reach that stage, be ready for that investment. So I think an awareness around that also, that what are the things required, what are the due diligence that would the banks would do, if that is more open, I think a lot more sessions, a lot more communications on that, I think that would also help entrepreneurs prepare better for that. So that's what I
So, question two. Sorry, Vipul, you were saying something.
Yeah, so if I can chime in, I mean, it's a very interesting space. So, that we realize, that women hold, in the ecosystem.
yes.
And this idea actually, we came across thanks to an entrepreneur from Assam, right? So
Oh,
this guy was a banker, went to Amsterdam, was doing fantastically well, and one day realized that he wants to come back and build something for the nation, basically build something for the community in the Northeast.
yes.
And he realized that women were at the center of sustaining a family, right, and making sure that certain aspects of the family were put together. For example, the livestock, right? So
Mhm.
you have a lot of livestock in the northeast, right?
Yeah,
Livestock is
yeah,
a huge sustainability factor for them,
yeah,
and they realized that while men were out there working, earning, and putting their earnings and savings and all that in the banks and investing it in the stock market and so on and so forth, it was the
yeah,
women who were actually taking care of the livestock, right? And
yeah,
here's the interesting thing. So every time the livestock gave birth, right, or it multiplied, right, that was a return on investment for the women of the household,
yes, yeah,
right? So if they had spent 100 rupees buying certain amount of livestock, if that was able to give more offsprings, by the end of the season, that's a multiplication of the investment, which women were actively looking at doing because they were selling it at the during the festivals and during certain times of the year,
yes,
and increasing the household savings that they could use for consumption within the household. So very interestingly, this founder created a full tokenized banking system based on that, right? And then he realized that all this livestock, if we can help spread awareness about improving the quality of it and look at the export markets, the earning grows substantially well. And throughout this particular process, it was completely led by women, right? And the idea of being able to use that as a force in terms of spreading awareness, education, or identifying opportunities and working on it, that did fantastically well for this startup in the northeast. And that's given us an idea where we're also trying to explore how can we interact, work with more women from the households, right? Because
yes,
they're present in the house, they offer a unique opportunity to be able to work with, collaborate with, expand that particular thing. And I think in the metros, while we have couples where both the husband and wives are working, the other segments, that opportunity is still new. That
yeah,
opportunity is still available. And I think through awareness about financial institutions and financial offerings, and probably platforms like Vidphone, I think there's a lot that can be done for that
yes,
particular community, and opening up more offerings with them.
yes, yes. No, thanks, Vipul. In fact, we are also planning a Women in Finance series, where we are getting, where we are, the idea is really, to tell women how to actually manage their finances, because a woman might be financially independent, but they still might not know, like you said, that gap is still there. And thanks for sharing the story, because I'm also from Assam, so great to know that, somebody has done something so amazing. So
Oh,
thanks.
absolutely.
Yes, over to you, Jagat.
Well, super. I think such wonderful inputs from Vipul, and I expect nothing less than that. I've always been, we've been in touch, I think, from 2016 right through,
Yeah.
probably 2016, 17, something like this. And I think today, from where, from my standpoint, just as a startup founder, somebody building products for, over a decade now, I think we are in a very unique position. I've shared this with Vipul as well. Uh, you know,
I think
Obviously,
yeah, yeah.
KYC. I want to talk about that, which is something that it's very close to my heart because we kind of launched out that product back in 2020 or probably before that, and that is such a uniquely beautiful solution for India, where you have such a huge vernacular component to the whole
Yeah.
thing. We have a remote last mile financial inclusion, along with I think the CBDC initiative as well, which kind of I'm not sure where it's headed, but at least the ideology and the thought process is absolutely brilliant. And when we see people like Vipul, who has been, I would say, seen both ends of the spectrum, right? You've seen really your startups with your background working with various startups before at the warehouse as well, and then now into the larger banks. I think having people like Vipul in those innovation roles uh, is only going to do a lot of good for this whole ecosystem.
Yes.
So I think yes, especially for Kotak Bank as well, and private banks who I would say are quite dynamic in the whole outreach and ultimately, if you're talking of India as a developed economy, it's down to finance.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. We are not talking about how many are educated or how many are healthy.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it comes down to what's our GDP, what's our per capita, and that's a direct function of the whole banking system. So I think a very exciting times ahead. Vipul, just pointers from you again. What have you observed? I know you've been at your role now, at Kotak for probably a year. I think somewhere there.
It's
What
about
have
it.
been your learnings? What have been some of your learnings that you would like to share with us and the other community from a fintech, or even a general startup, standpoint?
Yeah. So, you know, I would say that okay. So, thanks for giving a big quick brief about how I actually got here and what were the previous roles. But
I
again,
just took that liberty. I hope it's okay.
no, please, please, please. So what I was saying is that when I started off in the ecosystem, I was working in the B2C space, right? So we were doing like Big Basket and Portia and Fresh Menu and OU Rooms and all that stuff. That's where I was active. And then it was the B2B segment, right? So when the whole story about deep tech technology and AIs and MLs and all that stuff came up, we were talking about that. And then the whole revolution around the fintech space came in. That's what got me excited, and that's why I ended up here. What I find really fascinating and interesting is that if I create, a sort of a mind map that connects all these three, segments, I would say it has been a undying need, the sort of appetite, of the Indian consumers, right, to adopt technology to solve their problem in a, faster and a more, simpler way that has driven growth across, right? Whether it be an individual person, whether they be from a tier 3 city or a metro, whether they be like a large enterprise or an organization, whether you're working with GCCs in India or whether you're working with, small kirana stores as well. It is the final need of the customer, right? And then being ardently very articulate in terms of their what their requirement is to be able to cater to that particular need. I feel that today's period where we stand, it's a very strong positioning for people to have this sort of interaction, right? Because with all our senses, the one sense that really sells our products or really makes us believe is the channel of visual communication, right? So I have slowly started realizing over a period of time that the visual means of communication has taken that which level of importance across. And I say that, we're taking into account that UX and UI are product specific, right? Today, there are organizations that are hiring chief product officers just to focus on the UX UI,
Right.
which is completely visual in terms of representation, right? Because you're trying to solve a problem, you're trying to, explain your product in the best visual representation as much as possible, right? We're looking at having those conversations with people as well. We're talking about new ideas, right? And this is how new ideas are discussed, right? Because I'm able to stress on factors which I might not be able to articulate very well if it was just a sound medium, but I am able to because of a visual medium. With that being said, from a banking perspective, I see today we have more customers who are opening bank accounts without even visiting a actual brick and mortar store, right? Similarly, sales are actually happening via video calls and experience communication. In fact, even when I'm talking to my vendors, even if they're internationally, I would rather have this than they sending me documents, right? Because I can, pinpoint and, actually say, okay, this is what my problem is. Please solve this for me. I want to be able to understand this. Let's be specific. Similarly, in the B2C segment, right? When you're looking at a product, you're saying that, hey, show me the product, right? Why should I actually wait for it to be delivered to me? I want to see what it looks like right now. I want to do the comparison right away before I take a call. Those are all traits of a very awareness, and that is going to grow and it's going to grow at an even faster rate and more substantial. And what actually keeps me up at night is the fact that today, in a lot of ways, you don't really need to sell. What you really need to do is work on your product, make sure that the understanding of the product is good. Create a good product, explain it really well, right? As long as you have these two things done, your D2C, your B2C, your B2B, your B2C, your banking services, it's a one-stop solution for everything. And that's why I've been excited about the visual medium as well. We've had conversations, Jagat, in terms of how do we reach out to the farming community, how do we how do we create those solutions for the larger segments as well. And that's where it keeps getting me excited that if I'm sitting on my office laptop having this seamless experience in terms of a conversation, if I can provide this to my customers, right, imagine the opportunity that I can tap into and actually focus on stuff that I'm doing well, right? I'm creating a good product, right? I want to be able to solve my Q&As for my customers. As long as that is done, my job's done. And that is the exciting part. And COVID obviously played a role in terms of being able to generate more of this and spread the awareness. And today people are used to it. But I feel that even regardless of that, we would have reached the stage inevitably, right? And again, with that being said, the reason I'm again iterating it is because throughout my journey, I feel this is one place where we can actually do it. So just to give you a small example, one of my earlier roles at Growth Story was to look at conversion on the websites and landing pages, right? And when we were selling, and I've sold something as small as French fries for fresh menus, right? All the way to interior decoration for about a lakh or so on mobile, right? So I've done like this better, right? And I've done everything online with landing pages, right? Just by tweaking certain visual components, just by making sure the communication were right, we have gone from 0.3 conversion rate to 33% conversion rate, right? And that's the power of being able to do this. And I would say the secret to that again was being able to listen to your customer. So what I used to do a lot of times was try to figure out how people are interacting with the pages, reach out to the customers and see what questions they had, and just answer those questions. That's all I did. I just said, okay, these are questions, these are the answers, the information in front of you, make a decision. And that is what is possible in a even better way, in a forum like this. So that's what I'm excited about.
Phenomenally said. Phenomenal. I think you have summed it up in such a brilliant way. And of course, with us in video also, I kind of always have these thoughts, right? How do we get more people to open bank accounts? How do we get our GDP per capita above this $2,000, kind of range, which is dismal, right? I mean, we look at that and it's really, really bad. And yes, this is something that we really look at as a viable medium today. But it comes with its own challenges, right? Like you
Yeah.
said, yes, we have put a lot of work behind things like NAT traversal, what we call, and firewalls and all that stuff. So hence this kind of browser experience, as you said, many enterprises have a lot of firewalls, etc., which we need to sometimes surpass. Uh, but yeah, that's really the opportunity that I see. What about data security, Vipul? I mean, because it's something that's very close to my heart. As you see, sometimes with phone, we make some compromises on the performance because we are browser based, right? Many other of our other video apps, you have to download the application. Even if you close the app, close the call, you're actually not off. It's residing on your desktop, and definitely it's snooping in and all of that. So when it comes to finance, I think security is number one, right? I think banking grade security is the most important. So how do you see this panning out? Is it going to be like recently? Also, there was this huge issue of the KYC problem, right? I mean, where a lot of the records have been kind of compromised. What do you think is the secret sauce to that? How does someone solve it? Is it blockchain or what is it?
Yeah, so very interestingly, I'll again go back to an example from my grocery days because I also want to be able to set, the context in terms of how things have changed, over a timeline period. So in 2014, when we were looking at website optimization, we used to use a tool that used to help us record videos of customers, going through the journey of
Hotjar.
identifying the product
Was it
and
Hotjar?
buying it. No, I am not going to name it. So, but yeah, it's not
Okay,
Hotjar. But
sure.
I'm not going to name it. But
Got
what
it.
happened was that when we were looking at those particular videos, we realized that when it came out to the checkout page, right, and when the customer was filling in the information, I could see everything,
Right.
right? The complete credit card details, right? What they bought, everything, right? And if I had malice, right, I could have used it. We reported it to that particular organization saying, hey, this is I mean not right. I mean, we might not be using it, but I'm sure that somebody uses this as a way to utilize it for their own gains. It's a very simple sort of process. How do we take care of this? They said, don't worry. For you guys, we make it a process where you can't see the thing. It will be asterisk. I said, what do you mean just for me? I said, shouldn't that be like a default setting?
Right.
I mean, that should be for all your customers. Why are they allowed to see this information, right? So that was 2014, right? And today, when we're in 2023, we're talking about that. Even if I have a conversation over the phone, I don't want anything to be recorded. And
Absolutely.
what we're realizing today in the banking system as a whole, and with the adverts of AI coming in, people are even more scared and threatened about the fact that even if they're able to talk to one customer service representative, and share some information, and the second one is picking up some of that information, you don't know what's happening at the back end with that particular data, right? Is the AI competent enough? And it is, in ways to be able to match that data together and utilize it for their own gains. And hacking happens across the platforms and services and industries. So it's a big threat for us, right? So how do we circumnavigate that? From banking perspective, we spend at least about 80% of energy making sure that nothing gets hacked, because it's sensitive information, right? So we focus on that. Other industries are waking up to it, and they're also making sure that this is a of paramount importance. And to give you an example about how serious this threat is, even Sony PlayStation has been actively working on making sure that their servers are secure. And the reason that I know this is because we've had a lot of complaints coming in from Sony customers where their accounts have been hacked, right?
Wow.
But because they were using Kotak credit cards and Kotak debit cards, we had to work with the Sony team to get their money back, which we did in all the cases, right? But again, at that point of time, we realized that hey, this was a threat to our customers on a platform that we're not related to,
Correct.
right? So how do we build competencies at our level to make sure our customers don't face that problem? Now that again is going back to what I faced earlier, right? So these guys said we'll create the asterisks for you guys. That's the same thing that happened here. They said we'll make sure your customers. So again, I mean, the industry is waking up to this whole problem, and we're trying to solve that in a in a collaborative way. Again, it becomes important. And I think the biggest threat that people face or are worried about online interaction is that what if I'm talking to an AI, right? Because we
Yep.
me at the bank, I've actually seen products like this, right? They sound very human in nature, which will solve a lot of problems. If you're not aware of if this actually is a technology, you'll actually think that's a real life person that you're interacting with and talking to. But you're not very comfortable with that. But as soon as you put a face on it,
Yeah.
right? As soon as there's a genuine human interaction,
Yes.
today that's a USP.
Absolutely. No, I think very well said. And
Yeah.
uh, these are again, these are new problems that are coming every day, right? So we thought social networking was bad, in the sense,
Yeah.
people's, data and all that. And then we had video conferencing, where we've had innumerable number of breaches, and
Yeah.
now that's going compounded. It's getting to automated AI and video AI. The same video banker would do a lot of good, talking to people in vernacular, bringing
Yeah.
them into the system. But when that's abused, it's
Yeah.
really very, very dangerous.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
probably, coming to the last section, I know it's a weekend for Vipul. He needs his time off as well. Probably last one or two things. So I'll just probably Ayushri, from your end, what are the things that you are looking at next, right? I think one, we have maybe some more sessions on this, and a little bit if you want to
Yes.
talk about your other initiatives also.
Yes, yes. No, thanks, Jagat, and thanks, Vipul. Really, I think it has been an amazing session for us also, to learn so much from your journey. And I'm sure, like Jagat said, the idea of these sessions are not just, for people to view these right now, but also to put these as clips later through which it reaches a much larger audience, and people can know about what you shared, what are we planning ahead. So Jagat, obviously, like Vipul said, all these are threats today, and we should have, I think, this was the entire point of this session, right? Innovations, like what innovations we can collaboratively create going forward, and talk about much more innovations where we get to know the solutions to these threats, basically, or build solutions together, the possibilities of those. So obviously we have started an amazing series with Vipul and Vijetha today, so I'm looking forward to speaking to many more people, and probably we would get Vipul back again at some point, and hear more from him too on this. And regarding the other series, so like all of you know, and all of you must be seeing some women focused series. Now we are planning a women in finance, a women in tech, and a women in sales series. So these are just creating these smaller groups where and opening up our platform so that each group has and like the name suggests, a women in finance would really be targeted to women, to help them in their financial decisions, finance management, etc. Sales, to we generally see less women in tech and sales jobs still, how much ever we try to, but there it's still less, and to tech, a lot of women still don't feel very comfortable with tech. So the idea is to get these women together and to open up our platform, get leaders from the industry and from their journey, so that other they can pose as role models for other women to start uh, coming into this industry, start building things on their own. So that's the entire idea, and a lot more sessions like this, like I said, Jagat. So looking forward to exciting times ahead. Yeah.
So if I can just add another thing there, Ayushi,
Yes.
I think this is a really exciting, beginning. So, and I would also, love to share this, with my
Yes.
networks as well, and the people
Yes.
that I also know,
Yes.
because I think this is required. But for all the
Yes.
viewers,
Yeah.
who are probably seeing this now, would see this later. I would
Yes.
just like to say that where we are today from an ecosystem point of view, we have a great advantage, right, to be able to build more on top of what's already being built.
Yes.
Right? Collaboration today makes much more sense than it did about a decade back or even 2 years back, right?
True.
So my only suggestion would be, please, look at opportunities where you can build on top of stuff, right? Focus on your core competencies, right? Use
Yeah.
platforms like these, right, to be able to do your business, to be able to expand, to be able to grow, to be able to experiment with. But at the
Yeah.
same point of time, focus on your product. Focus on having that conversation with your customer. It'll help improve your own product offering. It'll help you better understand them. It'll help you create a tribe, loyal customer base, and it'll also help you solve problems much faster, because you don't have to do this today, right? Lot thanks to like Jagat and the team and everyone. So that's that. Again, just a small example before I sign off. A very dear friend from mine from engineering days. He belongs to the Bihar region, right? I got in touch with him about a week back, and I'm like, hey, I've heard from you. How are things? And last I heard, he had started a factory where he was making ball bearings. Just for people who are not, I would say,
Well,
mechanical enthusiasts, right? So ball bearings are very small metal balls that that are put in like wheels and all that other stuff to
makes
make
the world go round.
makes the world exactly right. So the ball bearings that he makes ball bearings, right? And he said that, dude, I've been so flush with the work and the sales that I don't have time. I said, you're making ball bearings, right? I mean, how does that, how you have enough time? You have people to do it for you. It's a factory. You have dedicated customers to solve that problem. He shared something really interesting, Jagat. He said that when he started off, with the ball bearing manufacturing, one of the key aspects that he found as a differentiator was that nobody gave a customer service number to their customers in that industry. He was the first one to start off with that. He said, I had a 24/7 customer service helpline. People reached out. And because of that, today he has a loyal customer base and he has a huge brand name in the market just because he was open to communication. That's it. And I was like,
Well,
that's
phenomenal.
such an amazing example. Ball bearings. Can you imagine? Ball bearings, yeah.
It's
Ball
unbelievable,
bearings,
unbelievable.
amazing.
Manufacturing, and when we look
Yeah,
at that industry, and it's a
exactly.
business model innovation that is brought in
Exactly.
for
Yes.
customer service.
Exactly. Just the communication, yeah. Just the communication. So I think those are exciting times ahead, and this makes it
Yes.
much more interesting as well. So I would
Yeah.
wish you all the best of luck, and happy to support this, happy to share this, and
Thank you.
you know happy to spread the word. And in case anybody has any queries, happy to help solve those as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So fantastic. I think with that, it's going to be a wonderful weekend for everybody. Enjoy your Saturday, Sunday. Vipul, again, thank you so much for
Thanks.
taking your time. All the viewers who have joined us,
Great.
live. He's always a guide to us and a mentor to us. So he's a little busy today with the networking, so he's had to leave us. Ayushri, phenomenal work. Keep it going, and that's about it. Any parting words? I'm happy to over to you, people. Yeah.
Yes. No, thanks a lot, Vipul, for actually making time today for us on a Friday evening. And we had a lovely session with you, like I have been saying from the beginning. And I'm sure everyone has enjoyed. And we would be putting out, all the clips. And for anyone who could not join Vipul and our viewers, please feel free to share the exact link, the same link. The recording would be available there. And they can access the recording live, and we'll also be sharing a lot of clips, etc., so that you can reshare into your networks, and we can get many more people, like get hear what we spoke today. So thanks a lot. Wishing everyone a very happy weekend, and thank you so much, everyone,
Thank
for
you.
joining.
Bye. Have a good evening. Bye.
Thanks,
Thank
Vipul. Bye.
you too.
Thanks,
Bye.
Ayushri. Thanks, Kanchan, as well. Thank you. Bye.